Although 2/3 of the Earth is covered with water, the world's oceans still represent the great unknown for us. Despite all expeditions, only 5% of our oceans have been explored, which is why nobody can say with certainty which bizarre creatures are really hiding in the secluded deep sea. Together with you, we would like to take a closer look at some of the shocking sea creatures that let the mystical underwater world shine in a completely new light. Before we get started, be sure to hit the like button and ring the notification bell for more videos. Also, stick around until the end to learn about one of the most shocking and disturbing sea creatures of all. Umi Bozu. Forget the chilling tales of the Loch Ness Monster. Within Japanese mythology, the so-called Umi Bozu have been spreading fear and terror for centuries. Any seafarer who dares to speak to one of these gigantic creatures will be dragged into the deadly depths of the sea. The name Umi Bozu is made up of two components that can be translated as lake and Buddhist monks. This may be because the monster's large smooth heads resemble the shaved heads of monks. However, others believe that the Umi Bozu are drowned priests who return to this world to torment the living. Although the existence of the sea monsters is far from proven, some Japanese sailors swear they have seen the dark forms with the snake-like limbs with their own eyes. Urikanji Syndrome. Originally, it was believed that the so-called Urikanji Syndrome could only be triggered by the box jellyfish that gave it its name. However, we now know that 8 other species are capable of inducing the unimaginable agony. Anyone who comes into contact with the nettle toxin complains of excruciating pain in the chest, stomach, and back areas. In addition, the victims are confronted with severe nausea, headaches, and sometimes even pulmonary edema. The problem, so far we have no antidote for the toxins of the Urikanji species. Sometimes the symptoms last for several days and cannot be suppressed even with opioids. So far, Urikanji syndrome has only occurred in Australia. Around 60 people are affected by the health consequences every year. Rumor has it that some of the victims were so excruciating that they took their own lives. Louse. Why Simathoa exiglia is also known as the tongue-eating louse becomes clear when we take a look at the insidious tricks this parasitic isopod has to offer. At home, at depths of up to 60 meters, the parasite infects various species of fish, hooking itself onto the tongue and beginning to suck the blood. The larger the woodlice gets, the more the fish tongue dies due to the lack of blood. Now the little animal starts to take over the function of the tongue. This means that part of the food that the fish takes in is always eaten by the parasite. This is the only known case of a parasite replacing a part of a host's body. But that's not all. Simathoa exigula is also a protandrous hermaphrodite. This means that he starts life as a male and later changes into a female in the fish's mouth. There it mates with other parasites that have also nested in the mouth of the host. Glasshead fish. What at first glance looks like the creation of a crazy science fiction author is actually at home in the northern Pacific. It is not difficult to see why the glasshead fish lives up to its name. The transparent protective hood gives us a detailed insight into the head world of this deep sea dweller. With a maximum length of 15 centimeters, the glasshead fish is classified in the ranks of the ghost fish. This surreal creature's diet consists primarily of plankton. Deep sea frogfish. Given the lantern-like outgrowths that adorn the skulls of the deep-sea frogfish, you'd think these bodily components act like a kind of flashlight. However, the luminous organs are not so much a visual aid in the dark, but rather lures that are used to attract prey in the deep sea. This so-called esca has a very complicated structure and is made up of a large number of small cells filled with glowing bacteria, reflective tissue, and light-conducting structures. At home in the deep seas of all the world's oceans, this suborder numbers about 160 different species, with the females being significantly larger than their male contemporaries. Accordingly, particularly large specimens reach a body length of up to 1.2 meters. Stonefish. Stonefish are not only some of the best camouflaged, but also some of the most venomous creatures the marine world has to offer. The plump fish, which can hardly be distinguished from the rocky bottom of the ocean, are at home in the tropical Indo-Pacific and the Red Sea. For most of the day, stonefish remain semi-buried or between two rocks on the seabed. However, as soon as a fish, crustacean, or cephalopod swims by, the hunters open their large mouths and suck in their prey. The poison of the stonefish, which is also deadly for us humans, slumbers in the so-called hard rays that sit on different fins. The pain associated with the sting is among the most extreme in the entire animal kingdom. Black swallower. The saying, "the eyes were probably bigger than the stomach," has had its day with the black swallower. In fact, both the mouth and the stomach of this deep-sea fish can be stretched so extremely that it can even swallow prey that are larger than itself. In detail, the stomach can reach 10 times its original size. Once the predator has caught a large prey, it may begin to decompose before the greedy maw has finished digesting it. As a result, so much gas is released that the fish is propelled to the surface where it eventually perishes. A maximum of 25 centimeters long, black swallower, which belongs to the black snake family, is at home in sea depths between 700 and 2,450 meters. Goblin shark. The goblin shark, or in other words, the deep-sea shark, with what is probably the largest tine in the ocean. As is easy to see, the predatory fish call their own an oversized, nose-like outgrowth that protrudes far beyond the mouth. But that's not the only point that makes the inhabitants of the deep sea so exciting. Fossil records show that the goblin shark has existed in its current form for at least 125 million years. As a result, many scientists suspect we are dealing here with the most primitive species of mackerel sharks, which include the famous great white shark. On average, the swimming hunters are between 3 and 4.5 meters long. In the Gulf of Mexico, fishermen even caught a 6-meter specimen in their nets. Sea wasp. Anyone who has come into contact with the venom of the Australian sea wasp once has little to smile about afterwards. The pain that breaks out is compared to the feeling of a red-hot iron on the skin. The fatal thing is that trying to remove the box jellyfish often leads to further poisoning of the hands and arms. This leads to redness, swelling, and necrosis, or the death of individual areas of the skin. After about 5 to 20 minutes, the sting of the sea wasp can be fatal. Although an antidote has been available to us for a number of years, unfortunately, this has not proved to be an effective solution in all cases. In fact, fear of the jellyfish poison in Australia is so great that entire beaches are cordoned off. While younger sea wasps feed mainly on shrimp, larger and older representatives also hunt for fish. The cnidarians show a sophisticated hunting behavior. First, they swim up at high speed before they stop abruptly and sink down with widespread tentacles. If the sea wasp catches a victim in its web, muscle movements transport it to the ostium. Given the effective venom, you might think that the jellyfish have virtually no natural enemies, but that's not true. Sea wasps are not only preyed on by some species of fish, but also by the green sea turtle. Blue-ringed octopus. Don't let the dazzling visage of the blue-ringed octopus dazzle you. If you spot one of these cephalopods, be sure to flee. This is primarily due to the fact that the 4 species secrete a poison that can also be deadly for us humans. The so-called tetrodotoxin, which enters the body after a bite, is not produced by the octopus itself, but by special bacteria in the salivary glands and in the foregut. If poisoning does occur, you need to act quickly. After 2 hours at the latest, symptoms of paralysis appear in the chest muscles, which can lead to ventricular fibrillation and respiratory arrest. If the affected person is professionally ventilated until the effect of the toxin wears off, he can usually survive without any consequential damage. However, the cephalopods which live off the coasts of the Philippines, Australia, New Guinea, and Indonesia give us a clear warning of a potential bite. If an animal feels threatened, its ringed-shaped pattern literally begins to pulsate. Wolffish. If oceanic creatures haven't already proven to be disturbing enough, the wolffish plans to take things to a new level. This fish is one of the most terrifying you will likely ever see, especially since they blend in with the ocean flow and attack unsuspecting victims as they swim or walk by. These ridiculously looking fish can grow to be nearly 40 inches in diameter and weigh up to 90 pounds. They are usually found in tropical climates and mostly feed on small fish and any other tiny oceanic creatures. We beg you to find a single sea creature more terrifying than the wolffish, because this fish is jaw-droppingly hideous and equally terrifying. Bobbit Worm. The fossilized remains of a giant underwater worm were found in a town near Ontario in February of 2017. The fossilized creature was called the Bobbit Worm. Scientists estimated that this worm likely lived around 400 million years ago, but we don't know this for certain. The fossil they discovered was from the fish's jawbone, which led researchers to believe that this worm could have grown to be 3 feet long. This may not sound too large, but considering that most underwater worms are only a few inches in size, this worm was extremely large. They named the worm after the Cannibal Corpse bass player, calling it the Websteropian Armstrongi. This was chosen because the bass player is known for being an extremely large man. These bobbit worms can be found all over the world today, but they are not the same size as the fossilized jaw that was found recently. Many of them are much smaller, or entirely different worms. Most of them bury themselves beneath the surface of the sand at the bottom of the ocean. They remain there until they detect potential prey swimming by, then leap from the water and attack. Some of these worms have grown to be up to 10 feet long, but this is extremely rare and way too scary to think about. Giant Shipworm. This creature tends to look very inappropriate in several images, so bear with us throughout this one. Giant shipworms have been a problem for sailors for thousands of years. These worms have been reported as far back as 412 BC, when records indicate that they would infest the lower portions of the boats and begin chewing away at the wood. This would leave sailors and their crews stranded or worse. For as long as humans have sailed the seas, these worms have ruined entire boats, though they suddenly vanished off the radar for several hundred years. That is, until they were rediscovered in 2017. Researchers found 5 of these giant worms in a bay in the Philippines. They can grow to be about 5 feet long and live under muddy areas of the water. They are covered in tube-like shells to protect themselves, with many comparing them to elephant tusks. Finding these worms was an extremely lucky break for scientists, as many marine biologists didn't believe these worms existed. One researcher referred to them as the unicorn for marine biologists. Mr. Sea Lizard. Scientists were floating around in a research boat near Australia, studying deep sea life, when they came across this terrifying creature. The creature was given an incredibly long name that translates to fierce deep sea lizard, but we can call him Mr. Sea Lizard. Mr. Sea Lizard was found between 3,300 and 8,200 feet below the surface of the way, making him the world's deepest living sea predator. Mr. Sea Lizard was found to be hiding in the dirt at the bottom of the ocean, jumping out and attacking unsuspected prey as they pass by. They found that once you're in Mr. Sea Lizard's jaws, there is no escape. The more you squirm, the deeper into his mouth you go. Scientists also found that Mr. Sea Lizard isn't a boy, he's a hermaphrodite, meaning he is capable of procreating as either a male or a female. Weird. Alright folks, now it's your turn. Which of the featured sea creatures fascinated you the most? Do you know any other extraordinary ocean creatures that didn't make it into today's post? As always, let us know your thoughts, suggestions, and feedback on today's video in the comments below. If you're already there, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to stay up to date from now on. Finally, feel free to take a look at the other videos of our channel, which you can access by clicking on one of the pictures in the credits. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and see you next time.